All right, let's move on to inflation. This is a really crazy story, Ryan, and potentially could be, it's going to be an issue there for Donald Trump. This is one of the main reasons why he won the presidency. Let's put this up there on the screen. Quote unquote, strengthening inflation poses challenge for Trump and for the Fed. So inflation actually ticked up this month, 2.7%. Quote, a sign to that path to bringing down price pressures remains bumpy. Quote unquote, progress on bringing down inflation stalled in November. CPI ticked up 2.7% increase, but it's the prices of consumer goods that are really jacking things up right now. Quote, everything from cars to living room furniture, excluding food and energy, increased at the fastest month-over-month pace in a year and a half, largely led by a jump in vehicle prices. That was partly because drivers were replacing damaged cars and trucks after recent devastating hurricanes, but also the rise is notable because the prices for many goods had been falling for about a year through August and now appears to have been reversed. One of the ways that you can really look into this is that it's in the core areas in terms of making everyday life more expensive whenever you see the actual dig into the numbers. Let's put this up there from the Washington Post. And I'm going to read here. This is actually really crazy. So what they show is that with eggs and with auto insurance in particular, food prices, which weighed heavily on Americans, rose 0.4% over the month. But prices for meat, fish, poultry, and eggs rose 1.7%. Beef price increased 3% and are up 5% on the year. Eggs are up 8.2% and are up 40% on the year. Gasoline up by 0.6%, but still down some 8% from the year ago, period. It's the auto insurance that really stuck out to me because what you saw in that number, Ryan, was a 12.7% increase in auto insurance in just a single year. And this is really shocking because what it shows is that not only is the price of carrying a car up significantly, but the price of the car itself is also up significantly. And then you consider that rates are still very high, so the car loans themselves. So you now have a situation where average car payment is going to rocket up from the price of the car, the rate of the car, and now the physical carrying cost with auto insurance. And one of the really sad parts about this is, talked a lot about this in terms of families, is that, now, it used to be like you had your 16-year-old kid, everyone is annoyed because it's like, oh, it jumped from $120 to $400 or something. Nowadays, you would be praying and wishing for a $400 insurance payment just for you and your wife, all right? Or you and your husband. Nowadays, it's like $500 to $2,000 of what that jump is. It's absolutely shocking.
The days where the 16-year-old, like when I was 16, I scraped together $1,700. I got $500 from a car accident I was in, and I was working, had a side job.
You're flush.
Yeah. It combined and was able, for $1,700, was able to get a Honda Accord, used as hell. And that was very normal.
Yes.
Even for lower income people, for teenagers to be able to, and then the insurance is a little more because you're a terrible driver, and it should be more because you're a danger on the roads just as much as a 95-year-old, maybe even more so. But it was affordable. This is getting unaffordable for the average middle class family at this point. And at Counterpoints, we were flagging this more than a year ago. And actually, a piece you read there is a nice little vindication.
We can put it up there.
People that were dunking on me about pointing out that all the storms and the floods were driving a significant amount of the auto insurance. Because people are like, what? That's crazy. That's impossible. No, dude, what do you think happens when you get much more hail than you used to get? Hail destroys cars. That's a couple $1,000 to get that fixed.
Maybe.
Flooding, more than that, yes. Because it's destroying the whole body. Flooding, your car gets filled with water. How much do you think that costs to get fixed? Look, Western North Carolina, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, like all of these places getting whacked with storms, and that's before we're talking about all the tornadoes. And as costs of cars rise, then the cost of fixing them rises.
Yes.
And there's also then, and this requires a lot more investigation, but this is something Dave Dayen's outlet would be good at looking into. Maybe we'll team up with him on that. Private equity is like buying up a whole bunch of car dealers and rolling up the auto repair industry. And so what private equity does when they buy up, say, medical facilities, they figure out how to upcode to insurance companies and Medicare, and all of a sudden, they're extracting a whole lot more money out of these insurance companies, whether it's Medicare or private insurance. They're doing the same thing with auto insurance. And so they're figuring out, how do we maximize what we can get out of this insurance company? Meanwhile, the car makers themselves are making everything automated. So every time you roll in now, and you've got, you might have, your tire pressure might be low.
Yeah.
In the old days, like just a couple years ago, you go and you fill up your tire. Now they're like, we got to run the system because we got to do something about that code. And that's like $100.
Interesting.
And then they find something else. And it's like, auto mechanics have always been good at figuring out ways to like charge you more, but private equity takes that to an exponential new level.
Right.
And then the insurance companies are like, okay, well, we're raising prices by 13%.
The price of this is actually shocking because put that New York Times tear sheet up there on the screen. I'm going to read a little bit from this B3, please. So what they talk about in here is about the, quote, era of the $20,000 family car insurance bill. And they quote one particular woman who said that she called to add her 16-year-old to her car insurance. She drives a 2018 Subaru, and the representative casually informed her her annual premium would go from $1,700 to over $5,000. They say, quote, it turns out she has it pretty good. There are plenty of families with 3 or 4 children whose annual premiums will top $20,000 this year. That can be enough to replace one of the cars that the entire policy covers. Quote, how can this be? It's the insurance industry, which means it's complicated, unpredictable, and more or less mandatory, especially because you literally have to have insurance to be able to drive. Go ahead.
And one other vicious cycle that's going on here, and you see this all over the country, I bet people are confronting this. The more that prices rise, the more unaffordable it becomes, the more people are uninsured.
Yes.
Because they can't pay, they just can't make the bills.
I was about to get to that.
And then boom, uninsured people, that raises the price.
So we have
for
a critical
else.
mass of uninsured population. Some of it is immigration related, apparently. That's what a lot of people are speculating around the large number of people who are here illegally and who largely drive without
That's legit analysis.
It's true. I mean, it's just at a basic level. You have a 20 million people who are illegally, 10 million people are probably driving. All of them legally are uninsured because that's what this is admitted by them and by social scientists and others. So if you're getting into a car accident, that's number one. Number two, that's a tale as old as time in Texas. Everybody in Texas has got a story. Getting rear-ended by a guy and he's like, oh, sorry, I don't have insurance. Drives away. I'll pay you some cash, whatever. This has been going on for 25 years. Since I was a kid, I remember hearing stories about this. Now the whole country gets to experience what we in Texas got to grow up with. Second, though, is the rise actually, and this is why I think you can't just blame it all on immigration. A lot of this has to do with cars, and I didn't think about this, but the nicer the cars become, the more expensive they are to fix. And what I mean by that is that even the baseline models of a lot of cars these days, they've got, the rear end sensors and all that stuff. Well, it used to be when you crash, or let's say somebody sideswipes you and they hit your side, okay, you just have to replace the piece of metal.
You go to a junkyard. That's what I used to just go to a junkyard.
Exactly. The famous, you have the door that doesn't match everything else.
Yes, exactly.
Looks like shit, but whatever.
I had that.
But now you have that. It needs a sensor, and it has that, and it's wired to the computer. And so whenever that happens, you actually have to replace like 3 or 4 different things. Also, electric vehicles. There's a famous story of a Rivian. Like a Rivian got involved in a rear end or something, and it cost $40,000 to fix because it's not just the sensors. It was something about the way that the car itself is configured, and they needed a brand new. You might as well have totaled it, to be honest. But that's the point: is that in basic fender benders and other small accidents, is that as the cars get nicer, first of all, more expensive, but second really is nicer, more complex with a lot more
and safer.
sensors.
The way they crumple.
Right. So
crumpling is good for the human.
Yes.
Bad for the car.
Bad for the car. So there's a lot of different things that are going on in terms of that. Second is also something that was flagged to me by somebody in the insurance industry. Let's put this up there on the screen. I don't know how much of this is true. This could be coped by them, but I thought I would mention it anyways. It says, quote, the big impact of quote unquote social inflation on small and mid-sized commercial auto insurers. And it says the term social inflation brings to mind jury trials and multi-million-dollar verdicts, often claims for involving serious injury for the claimant. But the effects of social inflation go beyond these headline-grabbing cases. The whole dynamic of social inflation that leads to verdicts has trickle-down effects that can impact any claim, including basic auto injury, for something as benign as a sprained ankle. This means that even small and mid-sized companies with relatively small auto liability exposure can and do pay the price. Commercial auto claim severity has now risen 72% since 2013, with a median annual increase of 6.3. Economic and social inflation are big culprits behind the increase, contributing to some $96 billion of increase in the combined claim payouts for U.S. personal and commercial auto liability in the last decade. So what that means is that there's also, I mean, lawyers and all these other people talk about it too, that a lot of the tort reform and there's a lot of lawyers who obviously prey on, not just, okay, so they justify it by representing people against auto companies, whatever. I don't know the whole story. I'm sure there's something in between. The point is that you have a lot of claimants with auto, insurance fraud, by the way, right now is rampant.
Sure.
By the way, get a dash cam. If you're out there, get a dash cam. It's important. It could save you a lot of money sometime in the future. So there's a famous video going around right now of a guy who slams his car, rear ends his car into somebody. The only reason she isn't held liable is because she has a dash cam showing that the other guy clearly is at fault. So insurance fraud and personal injury lawyers and all these other people are milking the auto insurance companies. A lot of those judgments are trickling down. You have the illegal immigrant situation. You've also got these more expensive car situation, and you got the storms. So it does seem like it was a perfect storm, quote unquote, of events. Also, I think a lot of claims renew on December. So that's another reason why this particular month was very high. But I feel for people out there, man. If you got 3 kids or something like that and you're paying 15, 20 grand a year in car insurance, that's crazy. Especially if you live in Florida, your home insurance rate, if you're lucky to have it, jacked up. Your auto insurance rate, crazy. If you live in California, apparently California just instituted some new regulations about mandatory coverage for every person, with increasing the amount that you legally have to have for your coverage, which again drives the price up. So there's a huge confluence of events, but the bottom line is always the same, is that it's harder to just be an everyday American. Yeah, it just sucks. I cannot imagine paying $20,000 a year for car insurance. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
Might need national car insurance at some point.
I don't know. I mean, you need something.
Single payer.
You got to figure out a way to get, because, this is, as we said, the basics. It's the carrying cost. Because if you go from a situation of, I saved up a lot of money, $15,000 a year car, $15,000 car, which is not, it used to be expensive. Nowadays, it's barely gonna buy you anything. Probably something used with 70,000 miles or something on it, maybe even 100,000. So you buy that car, but now the carrying cost of said car with car payment and with insurance now goes very, very high. So the burn rate of the average balance sheet for an American just makes it very, very difficult. If you're the average income on $75,000 a year household, good luck. I honestly, I don't know how you have 2 cars. It's almost impossible.
Do whatever you want with grocery prices.
Oh, right.
If that's 50% more than it was a few years ago, you're getting killed, even if you got the best coupons for Food Line that you can find.
It's very sad. It really is. It makes me sad. I can't imagine what it's like for people who are out there, maybe with a couple of kids or whatever. Maybe you decide to have to downsize to quote unquote one car for one family, but that can be very difficult as well. Especially if you live in a modern suburb or somewhere like that. If you're not like us, you don't live in an urban area and you literally have to drive everywhere for it. This is a lot of downstream implications, in terms of why this is all bad. So really, really sad story. Wanted to make sure that we flagged it. Trump certainly has his work cut out for him, because this is gonna be one of those number one things. And honestly, that'd be one of the things that I would focus on too. I'd be like, we need to lower the price of car and carrying cost for these for everybody. It's not just homes, it's also just very basic stuff like this: food, car, gas, home. If you focus just on those 4, you'd be a hero. But nobody in Washington likes to talk that way. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.